December 19, 1944, 4:47 a.m. Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Temperature 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Private First Class Vincent Romano pressed his eye against the Weaver 330C scope, watching 23 German soldiers move through the fog below. 6 rounds left. Hands numb, fingers barely feeling the trigger. The metal burned through his wool face wrap like dry ice. He had been in this oak tree for 36 hours. He had killed 29 men. He had not slept. He had not moved. And right now, watching those Germans advance in tactical formation, he was thinking about his mother scrubbing floors in a Manhattan office building. Strange what the mind does when death is 40 feet below. In the next 72 hours, this Brooklyn pigeon hunter would kill 87 enemy soldiers.
Target located,
He
300
would
meters.
rewrite every sniper doctrine the United States Army had
position.
ever written.
Wait for my
He
signal.
would face court-martial for doing it, and he would prove something that generals in warm headquarters never understood. Sometimes the deadliest weapon is not the one that moves. It is the one that refuses to move. But first, you need to understand why the American military was so desperate that they let a dock worker's son become their most efficient killer. December 16, 1944. 3 days earlier, Hitler launched Operation Watch on the Rhine. 28 German divisions smashed through American lines held by 4 exhausted divisions. The mathematics were brutal. 41 German battalions hit 7 American battalions in 6 hours. The Americans shattered. Units scattered into frozen forests. Radios went silent. Command lost contact with entire regiments. Bodies piled on snow-covered roads. The Battle of the Bulge had begun, and the Allies were losing badly. Romano's squad, 12 men from the 99th Infantry Division, retreated into dense forest south of Rocherath. They dug in on a hillside overlooking a logging road. Good position. Clear sightlines. Trees for cover. Then reality set in. 3 days of ammunition. No resupply. Germans controlling everything within 5 miles. Radio destroyed. Sergeant Patrick O'Brien, South Boston, former construction worker, assessed the situation with 2 words: "We're dead." Romano said nothing. He was watching the logging road below. German soldiers marched past every 45 minutes. Reconnaissance elements. Motorcycle couriers. Supply convoys. They moved casually, rifles, slung, some smoking, some laughing. Behind their own lines. Safe. Perfect targets. That night, Romano approached O'Brien. The sergeant was trying to light a cigarette with frozen fingers, cursing under his breath. "The logging road," Romano said. "I can shut it down." O'Brien looked up. "Sniper doctrine says shoot and move. 3 shots maximum, then relocate." Doctrine was written for different circumstances. You stay in one spot, mortars find you. Counter-snipers find you. You die. Maybe. No, maybe about it. O'Brien finally got the cigarette lit, cupped the flame. "You understand what you're proposing, court-martial. Disobeying direct orders, assuming we live long enough for paperwork." Romano's jaw tightened. "I can make that road unusable, force them to reroute, slow their advance, buy time for reinforcements." "How many shots you thinking?" "As many as it takes." O'Brien studied him. 20 years on construction sites had taught him to read men. Some talked big and folded under pressure. Others stayed quiet until the moment demanded action. Romano was the second type. "I'll deny this conversation happened," O'Brien said. "You do what you think is right. But if mortars come, you're on your own. Can't spare men to pull you out." Romano nodded. "Understood." He spent 2 hours preparing, found a massive oak tree 60 yards behind the squad's position, climbed in darkness, testing each branch. 3 limbs intersected 40 feet up, creating a natural platform. He tied himself to the trunk with parachute cord. Stacked 20 rounds where he could reach them without moving. Arranged pine boughs for camouflage. The platform measured 3 feet by 4 feet. His world for the next 3 days. His hands shook as he worked. Not from cold, from understanding. If German mortars found him, the tree became his coffin. 40 feet up, no escape shrapnel would shred him before he hit ground. He thought about his father coming home from the docks exhausted, smelling of fish and diesel. His mother's hands cracked from cleaning solutions. His little sister asking why birds flew south in winter. "You're crazy, Vincent," he whispered to himself. "You're going to die in a tree in Belgium, and nobody will ever know." But the alternative was watching Germans use that road freely. Watching them bring reinforcements that would kill more Americans. Watching and doing nothing. He checked his rifle one last time. Settled into position. Waited for dawn. December 18th, 1944. 6:47 a.m. First contact. 6 German soldiers appeared on the logging road. SS by their insignia. Young, 18, maybe 19. 1 was smoking. 2 were laughing about something. Casual. Confident. Romano's crosshairs found the lead soldier. 800 yards. Slight wind left to right. He adjusted. His finger touched the trigger. The soldier cupped his hands around a match, lighting a cigarette. Romano thought, he has a mother too. Then he fired. The German collapsed sideways, cigarette still burning beside his outstretched hand. The others scattered, diving into snow, firing blindly at the hillside. They had no idea where the shot came from. Sound traveled poorly in cold air. Muzzle flash meant nothing at this range. Romano was already tracking the second target. Fired. Hit. Third. Hit. Fourth. Miss. The soldier moved at the last instant. Fifth. Hit. 2 survivors ran north. Romano led the first. Fired. Watched him tumble into snow. The last one made it around a bend. 5 kills. 6 shots. 90 seconds. Romano's hands were shaking now. Not from cold. From what he had just done. 5 young men dead because he was patient and they were careless. He thought about the pigeon hunts on Brooklyn rooftops. Same mechanics, different scale, same patience, different consequences. This is what you trained for, he told himself. This is why you're here. 23 minutes later, 15 Germans appeared. Advancing cautiously now, using cover, an NCO directing them with hand signals. They had calculated approximate direction, but nothing precise. Romano let them reach the bodies. They clustered together, examining the dead. Amateur mistake. He fired into the cluster. Kept firing. 9 more down. Survivors ran. By noon, word had spread through German units. The logging road was death. Snipers in the forest. Casualties mounting. Romano watched through his scope as a German officer stood at the edge of the kill zone, binoculars scanning the hillside. Looking for him. Looking for the position that was killing his men. Find me, Romano thought. I dare you. The officer pointed at something, shouted orders. Soldiers spread out, began advancing in skirmish line. Better tactics now. Romano shot the officer first. Leadership elimination. The formation collapsed into confusion. He worked left to right across the line. Mechanical. Efficient. Pigeon hunting with higher stakes. 7 down before they identified his general direction. Return fire started hitting trees around him. Branches exploded. Bark fragments filled the air. A round passed 6 inches from his head, close enough to hear the supersonic crack. He kept firing. 11. 12. 15. 16. Survivors broke running for cover. Romano reloaded. His fingers were so cold he dropped 2 rounds. They fell 40 feet, disappeared into snow below. He cursed, retrieved more from his stash. By sunset, December 18th, he had fired 34 rounds, 29 confirmed kills. The logging road was empty, not a single German visible. That night, O'Brien climbed up with water and rations. "You're absolutely insane," O'Brien said. "You know that, probably. They'll figure out where you are. Mortars." Romano ate cold K-rations, hands too stiff to open the can properly. O'Brien had to help him. "How you feeling?" O'Brien asked. Romano considered the question. How was he feeling? 29 men dead because of him. Young soldiers with families, futures, dreams, all ended by a dock worker's son from Brooklyn. "I don't know," he said finally. "I don't feel anything. Is that wrong?" O'Brien shook his head. "That's war. You feel it later. Or you don't. Either way, you keep fighting." "What if I can't stop seeing their faces?" "Then you drink, like the rest of us." O'Brien climbed down, left Romano alone in the darkness. Temperature dropping. Stars visible through branches. Somewhere in the distance, artillery rumbled. Romano wrapped himself in every layer he had. Tried to sleep. Couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that first soldier lighting his cigarette. Cupped hands. Match flame. Then nothing. He had killed before. 38 confirmed in 7 months. But never like this. Never this many, this fast, this deliberate. "You're a weapon," he whispered. "That's all. A weapon doesn't feel. A weapon functions. But weapons don't have mothers who scrub floors. Weapons don't have memories of hunting pigeons on Brooklyn rooftops. Weapons don't wonder if the enemy has sisters who will cry when they get the telegram." December 19th, 1944. 4:47 a.m. The moment we began. Romano had been awake all night. Hypothermia setting in. He recognized the signs. Confusion, drowsiness, slurred thinking. He was dying slowly from exposure, but he stayed. 23 German soldiers appeared at dawn. Full tactical formation this time. Skirmish line, 20-yard spacing, an officer directing with hand signals. They had learned. Not enough. Romano started shooting before they entered optimal range, 900 yards. Longer shots more difficult, but they weren't expecting contact this far out. The officer died first. Formation collapsed. Romano worked methodically. Left to right. Fired, worked bolt. Acquired target, fired. 7 down before they identified his position. Return fire intensified. Branches exploding everywhere. Tree shaking from impacts. A round punched through his pack, missing his spine by inches. 11, 12, 15, 16. 7 escaped. 16 kills. 21 shots. At 11:17 a.m., the mortars came. He heard them launch. 4 tubes. The distinctive thump, 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 thump. Flight time 12 seconds at this range. Romano pressed himself against the trunk. Made himself small. First salvo hit 40 yards short. Explosions sent snow geysering upward. Shrapnel whined through air. Second salvo. 20 yards short. Closer. Tree branches above him disintegrated. His ears rang. Third salvo should hit him directly. He thought, "This is it. This is how I die." Thought about his mother getting the telegram. His father sitting alone at the kitchen table. His sister crying. Thought, "I'm sorry." The third salvo never came. Silence. Then nothing. Later he learned American counter-battery radar picked up the German mortar positions. Called in 105mm artillery. The German mortars evacuated before completing their mission. Luck. Pure luck. But he survived. That night, O'Brien climbed up again. "They tried to kill you with mortars." "I noticed." "You're staying up here anyway." "Yes." "Why?" Romano looked at the empty road below. 42 dead Germans. Supply route closed. Maybe it mattered. Maybe it would save American lives. Maybe he was just a crazy Brooklyn kid who didn't know when to quit. "Because it's working," he said. O'Brien nodded slowly. "Command won't understand. They'll want to court-martial you. Let them. You might actually win this thing." Romano said nothing. He was too tired for words, too cold, too numb. Tomorrow would bring more Germans, more killing, more cold. The oak tree creaked in the wind. Somewhere below, his 42 victims lay frozen in the snow. He had killed more men in 2 days than most soldiers killed in an entire war. And it was not over. December 20th was coming. The final day. 41 German soldiers advancing with half-track support. The moment that would decide everything. But that is a story for part 2. What you need to understand now is this: Vincent Romano was not a hero in the traditional sense. He was a weapon that refused to move. A Brooklyn pigeon hunter who applied tenement patience to industrial killing. A dock worker's son who violated every rule because the rules did not fit the situation. The army wanted to punish him. The army also wanted to copy him. They would do both. In part 2, we will see the final assault, the half-tracks. The moment Romano should have died but didn't. And the quiet revolution he started in how armies think about snipers. 87 kills. 72 hours. 1 man. 1 tree. Sometimes the deadliest weapon is not the one that moves fastest. It is the one that refuses to move at all. December 18th, 19th, 1944. Vincent Romano. A Brooklyn dock worker's son had spent 2 days in a frozen oak tree killing Germans. 29 confirmed on day 1. 16 more on day 2. 45 total. He had shut down an entire German supply route. He had survived mortar fire that should have killed him. He had violated every sniper doctrine the United States Army had ever written. But December 20th was coming, and the Germans were done playing games. 41 soldiers, 2 half-tracks with mounted MG-42 machine guns, a full platoon assault designed to eliminate 1 man in 1 tree. The Germans had calculated his approximate position. They had brought overwhelming firepower. They were going to rush through his kill zone before he could engage effectively. Romano had 64 hours without sleep, hypothermia setting in, hands barely responding, feet completely numb. He was dying slowly from exposure, and he was about to face the fight of his life. This is where everything changed, not just for Romano, for every sniper who came after him, for the United States Army itself. December 20th, 1944, 7:34 a.m. Final assault. Romano saw them coming through morning fog, tactical formation, proper spacing, the half-tracks rumbling forward, machine guns already firing suppressive bursts at the tree line. "Here we go," he whispered. He started shooting before they entered optimal range, 900 yards. Difficult shots, but surprise mattered more than precision. First round. Miss. Nerves. Cold hands. He steadied himself. Second round. The lead soldier dropped. The formation kept advancing. Disciplined. These were veterans, not the young replacements he had been killing. Romano worked faster than he ever had. Fired. Worked bolt. Acquired. Fired. The half-tracks accelerated. Machine gun rounds tore through branches around him. Bark exploded. Splinters filled the air. He ignored it, focused only on targets. 4 down. 6. 8. The first half-track reached the cluster of bodies from previous days. Romano shifted aim, put 3 rounds through the driver's vision port. The vehicle swerved hard, crashed into a tree, stopped dead. Soldiers poured out the back. Romano killed 4 before they reached cover. The second half-track kept coming. Gunner visible behind his weapon shield, pouring fire at the hillside. Romano aimed carefully. Fired. Miss. The half-track was 50 yards closer now, machine gun rounds hitting closer to his position. He fired again. Hit. The gunner slumped. The machine gun fell silent. Now infantry only. 41 reduced to 28. Disorganized. Taking cover wherever they could find it. Romano kept shooting. 27. 26. 23. His rifle jammed. Frozen bolt. The cold had finally caught up with him. He worked the mechanism frantically, fingers too numb to feel what he was doing. Machine gun fire from surviving Germans hitting all around him. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on, come on, come on." The bolt freed. He chambered around, found a target, fired, hit. 22, 21, 8:20. At 8:09 a.m., the survivors retreated north, dragging wounded, leaving dead. Romano counted bodies visible on the road. 18 confirmed from this engagement alone. Combined with the previous 2 days' 87 kills, 114 rounds fired, 72 hours in a single position. The logging road was finished, littered with corpses, burned vehicles, the psychological residue of a position that killed everything approaching it. He had won. At 2:47 p.m., American reinforcements from the 2nd Infantry Division reached O'Brien's squad. The German offensive in this sector had stalled. Romano climbed down from his tree at 3:15 p.m. His legs collapsed the moment he touched ground. O'Brien caught him. "You did it, you crazy bastard!" Romano tried to speak. Couldn't. His jaw was frozen shut from hours of clenching against the cold. He just stared at his hands, still gripping the rifle, unable to let go. They carried him to a farmhouse, wrapped him in blankets, fed him hot coffee, slowly feeling return to his extremities. The pain was excruciating. Frostbite on 7 fingers, both feet damaged. But he was alive, and his problems were just beginning. December 21st, 1944, 0900 hours. Temporary Battalion Headquarters. The debriefing. Captain James Buchanan sat across from Romano notebook, open face hard. Major Harold Steinberg stood by the window, arms crossed. Neither man looked happy. "Private Romano," Buchanan began. "Walk me through the engagement." Romano described it clinically. Position selection, fields of fire, target acquisition, kill counts per engagement. No emotion. Just facts. Steinberg interrupted. "You maintained position for 3 consecutive days." "Yes, sir." "Despite standing orders requiring relocation after 3 shots, maximum." "Yes, sir." "You're aware those orders exist to prevent exactly what happened, enemy mortars targeting your position." "Yes, sir." "Yet you disobeyed them anyway." Romano met his eyes. "The tactical situation required adaptation, sir. The logging road represented a critical enemy supply route. Abandoning position would have allowed unrestricted German access." Buchanan slammed his palm on the table. "That's not your decision to make. You're a private. You follow orders. You don't create new doctrine because you think you know better than command." "With respect, Sir, command wasn't present to assess ground truth." "With respect." Buchanan's face reddened. "You violated direct orders, reckless endangerment, unauthorized tactical modifications. I could have you court-martialed and shot." Romano said nothing. There was nothing to say. Steinberg turned from the window. 87 confirmed kills, Captain. I'm aware of the number. Conservative estimate. Actual count may be higher, including wounded who died later. Numbers don't excuse insubordination. The logging road is unusable. German forces in this sector rerouted 2 miles east, added 6 hours to their supply timeline. Intelligence reports ammunition shortages in forward units, December 19th and 20th. Buchanan paused. "You're saying he caused that?" "I'm saying his actions had measurable operational impact." The room went quiet. Outside, artillery rumbled. The battle continued. But in this room, the question was simple. Punish initiative or reward results. Buchanan closed his notebook. "Here's what happens, Private. Official reprimand in your service record. Letter documenting violation of standing orders. Follows you for the rest of your military career." Romano nodded. Expected. "No court-martial, no reduction in rank." Buchanan stood. "And we're forwarding your case to Division Sniper Training Cadre for tactical analysis. If your methods prove replicable, we may need to revise doctrine." "To be clear," Steinberg added, "you got lucky. Those mortars should have killed you. Next sniper who tries this might not survive. We can't encourage cowboys who ignore orders." "Understood, sir." "But we also can't ignore effectiveness." Steinberg walked to the door, paused. War is about killing the enemy and preserving our forces. You did both. Doesn't make you right. Makes you useful." The meeting ended. Romano walked out with a reprimand in his file and something else, quiet acknowledgement that he had changed something fundamental. But the real fight was just starting. Word spread through the division within days. Not officially. Nobody published reports about the crazy sniper who stayed in one tree for 3 days. But soldiers talk. O'Brien told his platoon. They told their companies. Within a week, every sniper in the 99th Infantry Division knew about Romano's stand. Opinions split sharply. Master Sergeant William Crawford, senior sniper instructor, called it suicidal nonsense. He had trained snipers for 8 years. He had written the manual they all followed, and some Brooklyn private was going to tell him that the manual was wrong. "Static positions are death traps," Crawford declared at a training session. "Romano survived through luck, pure luck. Anyone who tries to replicate his methods will die." Private First Class. Thomas Mitchell raised his hand. "Sergeant, didn't Romano achieve more kills in 3 days than most snipers achieve in a year?" Crawford's face darkened. "Kills don't matter if the sniper dies. Our doctrine keeps men alive. Romano's alive. This time. Try it again. Different circumstances, different result. Doctrine exists for a reason." The argument continued for weeks. Crawford represented the old guard, experienced, cautious, committed to proven methods. Romano represented something new: adaptation, risk-taking, results over rules. Division command watched the debate carefully. They needed to decide: validate Romano's approach or condemn it as dangerous precedent. January 3, 1945. The decision came from Colonel Robert Harrison, Division Operations. A formal assessment would be conducted. Romano's methods would be tested under controlled conditions. If successful, new doctrine would be developed. If not, the matter would be closed permanently. Crawford would design the test. Romano would execute it. The two men met for the first time on January 5 in a frozen field outside division headquarters. Crawford was 43, barrel-chested, with cold blue eyes and a handshake that could crush walnuts. He looked at Romano like a scientist examining a particularly interesting insect. "So you're the cowboy." "I'm a sniper sergeant." "You're a lucky fool who should be dead." Crawford lit a cigarette, blew smoke into the cold air. "Command wants a test. Fine, we'll test. But understand something, Private. I've trained men for 8 years. I've watched them die when they made mistakes. Everything in our doctrine exists because someone paid for the lesson in blood." "I understand, Sergeant." "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're a kid who got lucky once and now thinks he invented something new." Romano met his gaze. "I'm a kid who shut down a supply route for 3 days and killed 87 enemy soldiers. If you have a better method, I'd like to see it." Crawford's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then Crawford smiled. Barely. Just a flicker. "Maybe you're not completely useless. We'll see." The test was scheduled for January 8th. 3 days to prepare. Romano would occupy a static position and engage targets over an 8-hour period. Crawford would evaluate based on survivability, accuracy, and tactical effectiveness. Conditions would simulate combat. Observers would act as enemy forces attempting to locate and kill Romano through coordinated search patterns. If they found him within the time limit, he failed. If he survived while achieving minimum kill counts, new doctrine would be considered. January 8, 1945. 0600 hours. Test site: abandoned farm complex, 2 miles behind front lines. Temperature 12 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind 8 miles per hour from the northwest. Visibility good. Romano arrived before dawn. Selected a position in the ruins of a barn loft. Elevation advantage. Multiple sight lines. Good concealment among collapsed timbers. Crawford watched him prepare with 16 other observers. Officers from division sniper cadre. Representatives from regiment. Two colonels who had heard about the controversy and wanted to see for themselves. 8 hours, Crawford announced. Minimum requirement, 15 confirmed hits on designated targets. Maximum exposure if search teams locate his position within 50 meters before the 8 hours end test fails. Romano settled into position. Checked sightlines. Arranged ammunition. Prepared for 8 hours of complete stillness. First target appeared. Mannequin mounted on a sled pulled across a field 400 yards distant. Romano tracked it, fired, hit, target down, second target, 600 yards, moving faster. Romano adjusted lead, fired, hit, third target, 800 yards, stationary, easy shot, hit. Crawford noted each engagement. Accuracy acceptable, but accuracy isn't the question. First search team deployed. 4 men spread in skirmish line, advancing toward the general area where shots originated. They knew approximately where Romano was. They needed to pinpoint. Romano went still, completely still. Breathing slowed to almost nothing. The searchers moved closer. 300 yards, 200, 150. One searcher pointed at the barn. There, has to be. They approached, entered the structure, searched the ground floor, found nothing. Check the loft. 2 men climbed the ladder. Romano was 8 feet away, hidden among collapsed timbers. They looked directly at his position. Nothing here. Too much debris, no sight lines. They climbed down, moved on. Romano exhaled, slowly, silently. 8th target? 5th search team. Still not located. Crawford was frowning now. The test was exceeding expectations. Midday. Romano had been motionless for 6 hours. 18 confirmed hits. No detection. Crawford called a conference with observers. Impressions. Colonel Marcus Webb spoke first. His concealment discipline is exceptional. 5 search teams, none closer than 15 meters to actual position. Lieutenant Colonel James Foster nodded. Accuracy maintained despite extended static position. Most snipers degrade after 4 hours motionless. He's improving. Crawford said nothing. His face was unreadable. 22nd target, 900 yards, moving erratically. The hardest shot of the day. Romano tracked, calculated, fired. Miss. The observers stirred. First miss in 22 attempts. Romano chambered another round. Reacquired. The target was still moving almost out of range. He fired again. Hit. Crawford made a note. Recovery under pressure, acceptable. 29th target, 7th search team. 6 hours 45 minutes elapsed. The search team was good, better than the others. They moved systematically, checking every position that offered sight lines. They were closing on the barn. One searcher stopped, raised binoculars, scanned the loft carefully. Wait, something in the debris, northwest corner. They approached, weapons ready. This was it. Romano had a choice: stay motionless and risk detection, or create a distraction. He chose distraction, shifted slightly, deliberately, drew their attention to a different section of the loft. Their movement. They rushed to the wrong corner, found nothing. By the time they searched properly, their 8-minute time allocation had expired. Team 7 time, Crawford announced. Return to base. End of test. 31 confirmed hits. 0 detection. Crawford gathered the observers for final assessment. Results, he said. 31 targets engaged. 29 first-round hits. 2 requiring follow-up. Accuracy rate 94%. 7 search teams deployed. 0 successful detections. Closest approach 12 meters, Team 4 at 11:45 hours. He paused. Looked at Romano still in position, waiting for dismissal. Assessment: static position sniper operations viable under specific conditions. Favorable terrain. Adequate concealment. Extended engagement distances. Not viable in all circumstances. Not replacement for current doctrine. Supplement to existing methods. Colonel Webb asked. Recommendation. Crawford was silent for a long moment. Then, develop new training module. Extended position sniper operations. Limited application. Defensive scenarios only. Requires commander approval for each deployment. You're saying Private Romano was right. Crawford's jaw tightened. I'm saying Private Romano identified a gap in our doctrine. Under specific conditions, static positions can achieve results impossible through mobile operations. The question is ensuring snipers understand which conditions apply. The test was over. Romano had proven his point, but proving a point and changing an army are two very different things. Over the following weeks, Romano was reassigned to Division Sniper School as an instructor. Not a reward, a practical decision. If he had figured out something useful, better to have him teaching it than getting killed. He trained 43 snipers between January and April 1945. Taught them tree positions, sight lines, patience, cold weather survival. Told them about the logging road, explained his thinking. Static positions are suicide in offensive operations, he said. But in defense with proper support, sometimes the best position is one that doesn't move. You have to know which situation you're in. Some students embraced the new methods, others resisted. Crawford's influence remained strong among traditional snipers. By February 3, snipers had attempted static positions in combat. One died from counter-battery fire. His position was poorly chosen, insufficient concealment, inadequate escape routes. The others achieved significant results before withdrawing. The technique worked, sometimes, under specific conditions. In March 1945, the Army published Revised Sniper Doctrine, buried in Section 7, Subsection 3, Paragraph 4. In defensive positions with confirmed friendly support and favorable terrain, snipers may maintain static positions beyond standard 3-shot limitations, provided continuous reassessment of enemy counter-sniper threat. Legal permission to do what Romano had done. No names, no specific battles, just acknowledgement that sometimes staying put killed more enemies than moving. Romano never saw the revised manual. By March, he was focused on something else entirely. Reports were coming from the Pacific Theater. Japanese snipers were using techniques similar to his own. Static positions in jungle canopy, extended engagements lasting days, American casualties mounting. The methods that made Romano effective against Germans were being used against Americans in the Pacific. And there was something else. Intelligence reports suggested the Japanese were studying captured American doctrine, including the new sniper methods. Someone was talking. Someone had leaked information. The Army needed answers. They needed someone who understood static position tactics from the inside. They needed Romano. In Part 3, we'll see what happened when a Brooklyn sniper was sent to the Pacific, when his own methods were turned against him, when the enemy knew exactly what he was going to do before he did it. The Germans had been an obstacle. The Japanese would be a mirror. And the real war for Vincent Romano was just beginning. December 1944. A Brooklyn dock worker's son named Vincent Romano sat in a frozen oak tree for 72 hours. He killed 87 German soldiers. He violated every sniper doctrine the Army had written. January 1945. He proved his methods in a controlled test. 31 targets. 0 detection. The Army rewrote their manual. By February, Romano was training other snipers. His static position techniques were spreading through the European theater. 3 other snipers had attempted his methods. 2 succeeded. 1 died. But something else was spreading too. Intelligence. March 1945. Reports from the Pacific Theater confirmed American fears. Japanese snipers were using techniques remarkably similar to Romano's. Static positions in jungle canopy. Extended engagements lasting days. Patience that bordered on supernatural. American casualties from sniper fire in the Pacific increased 43% in 6 weeks. Someone was talking. Someone had leaked the new doctrine before it was even officially published. And now Vincent Romano was being sent to find out who. This was no longer about killing Germans. This was about stopping his own methods from killing Americans. The war had just become personal. March 12, 1945. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Transit station for Pacific deployment. Romano stepped off the transport plane into humid tropical air. After months in frozen European forests, the heat hit him like a physical blow. He was met by Lieutenant Colonel James Whitfield, Army Intelligence Pacific Theater. Whitfield was 52, thin as wire, with eyes that missed nothing. He shook Romano's hand once hard. "Private Romano, you're younger than I expected." "I get that a lot, sir." "Your reputation precedes you. 87 kills, 1 position, 3 days." "Yes, sir." "Impressive, also problematic." Whitfield started walking. Romano followed. "We've intercepted Japanese communications. They're calling our new sniper doctrine the tree method. They know about extended static positions. They know about the patience techniques. They know about the concealment protocols." "How much do they know, sir?" "Enough to train their own snipers. Enough to adapt their counter-sniper operations." Whitfield stopped, turned to face Romano directly. "In the last 6 weeks, we've lost 47 men to Japanese snipers using static positions. 47 Americans dead because someone shared your methods with the enemy." Romano felt something cold settle in his stomach. Who leaked it? That's what you're going to find out. The investigation took Romano to 3 different bases over 2 weeks. He interviewed 17 personnel with access to the new sniper doctrine. He reviewed communication logs, personnel files, security protocols. The leak wasn't hard to find. Sergeant Major Theodore Haskins, 23 years Army, decorated veteran, respected instructor. He had been passing information to a Japanese agent in exchange for money to cover gambling debts. Haskins was arrested on March 28th, court-martialed, executed by firing squad on April 15th. But the damage was done. Japanese snipers now understood American methods. They were adapting, improving, killing. Romano wasn't sent to the Pacific to investigate a leak. That was just the beginning. He was sent to solve a problem. The problem was this: how do you fight an enemy using your own tactics against you? April 1945. Okinawa. The invasion had begun April 1st. 82 days of the bloodiest fighting in the Pacific War. Japanese defenders numbered over 100,000. They had dug into caves, ridges, fortified positions. They were not going to surrender. And they had snipers, hundreds of them. Hidden in trees and ruins in positions so well concealed that American troops called them ghosts. American casualties mounted. 12,000 killed. 36,000 wounded. Many of those casualties came from sniper fire. Romano arrived on Okinawa April 18th, attached to the 96th Infantry Division. His mission: develop counter-sniper protocols using his understanding of static position tactics. The man who had invented the tree method was now being asked to defeat it. His first day on the island, Romano walked the perimeter of a forward operating base with Captain William Torres, company commander. "They're everywhere," Torres said. "Yesterday we lost 3 men to a single sniper. Couldn't find him. Searched for 4 hours. Nothing." "Show me where." They walked to the position. 3 bloodstains on the ground. Romano examined the terrain. Ridgeline 200 yards west. Dense vegetation. Multiple positions offering sightlines to this exact spot. "Your men were standing here." "Resupply point. They were distributing ammunition." "Same time every day." Torres paused. "Yes. 0800 hours." "There's your problem." Romano pointed at the ridgeline. "Static position sniper. He identified your pattern. Set up where he could observe multiple days. Waited for the optimal moment." "How do we stop him?" Romano studied the terrain. The answer was simple, also terrifying. I go find him." The next morning, Romano left the perimeter at 0400 hours, alone, moving through darkness toward the ridgeline. He carried his Springfield 20 rounds of ammunition water and nothing else. He reached the ridgeline at 0530, found a position in dense brush with sight lines to the American base, settled in, waited. 0800 came and went. No American resupply. Torres had changed the schedule per Romano's instruction. Romano watched the ridgeline through his scope. Somewhere within 500 yards, a Japanese sniper was doing the same thing he was doing. Waiting. Watching. Patient. The question was, who would move first? 947. Movement. 50 yards to Romano's left. A branch shifted in a way that Wind didn't explain. He had found the sniper. Romano adjusted his position, millimeter by millimeter. Took him 4 minutes to get the angle he needed. Through his scope, he could see a shape in the vegetation. Human. Motionless. Perfectly concealed. The Japanese sniper was good, very good, positioned in a natural depression, surrounded by branches that broke up his silhouette. If Romano hadn't known exactly what to look for, he never would have spotted him. But Romano did know, because he would have chosen the exact same position. He aimed. Calculated wind, distance approximately 60 yards. Close. Too close for a miss. Fired. The shape jerked. Slumped. Still. Romano waited 30 minutes before approaching. Confirmed the kill. A Japanese sergeant experienced based on his equipment. His rifle was still aimed at the American base finger near the trigger. The man had been waiting for the 0800 resupply that never came. One sniper down. Hundreds more to go. Over the next 6 weeks, Romano developed and taught what he called mirror protocol. The principle was simple. To defeat a static position sniper, think like a static position sniper. He trained 12 American snipers in the technique. They spread out across the Okinawa front. Results came quickly. April 22nd. Private James Callahan eliminated 3 Japanese snipers in the Kakazu Ridge sector. April 29th. Corporal Michael Chen located and destroyed a sniper nest that had killed 11 Americans over 4 days. May 3rd. Sergeant Robert Williams engaged and killed a Japanese sniper at 900 yards, the longest confirmed kill of the Okinawa campaign. In 3 weeks, Romano's mirror protocol teams eliminated 47 Japanese snipers. American casualties from sniper fire dropped 61%. But on May 8th, everything changed. VE Day. Victory in Europe. Germany surrendered. The war in Europe was over. The war in the Pacific was not. And now all American resources would focus on one goal: defeating Japan. Romano received new orders. He was being transferred to a special unit. Mission classified. Destination unknown. May 15, 1945. Briefing room. Guam. Romano sat with 14 other men. All snipers. All with exceptional combat records. All wondering why they were here. Colonel Harrison Wells entered. Tall. Gray hair. Face like carved granite. He carried a folder stamped "Top Secret." "Gentlemen, what I'm about to tell you does not leave this room." He opened the folder, spread photographs on the table. Aerial reconnaissance. An island, heavily fortified. Iwo Jima taught us what Japanese defensive positions cost. Okinawa confirmed it. The invasion of mainland Japan will make both look like training exercises. He paused. Let that sink in. Current estimates: 400,000 American casualties. Minimum, possibly over 1 million. The room was silent. 1 million casualties. The number was incomprehensible. "You're being formed into a special sniper unit. Code name Spectre. Your mission: infiltrate ahead of invasion forces. Eliminate Japanese officers, communication personnel, artillery spotters. Create confusion and chaos before our main forces land." Romano raised his hand. "Sir, infiltration means operating behind enemy lines. No support. No extraction." "Correct." That's a suicide mission. Wells met his eyes. No, private. A suicide mission is sending 500,000 men into fortified positions defended by 2 million Japanese soldiers. Your mission is difficult. Their mission is impossible. Unless you succeed. The room absorbed this. 15 men. Against an empire. Wells continued. You'll receive 2 months of specialized training. Insertion methods. Survival techniques. Target identification. By August, you'll be ready for deployment. He closed the folder. Any questions? Private Thomas Mitchell spoke. Sir, what happens if the Japanese surrender before the invasion? Wells almost smiled. Then you go home heroes who never fired a shot. But I wouldn't count on it. The Japanese don't surrender. They die. Our job is to make sure more of them die than us. The Spectre unit trained through June and July. Insertion techniques. Silent movement. Extended survival. Target prioritization. Romano became the unit's lead instructor for static position operations. He taught them everything he knew. Every technique from Brooklyn rooftops to Belgian forests to Okinawa ridgelines. They were ready by August 1st. Deployment scheduled for August 15th. The invasion of Japan would begin November 1st. Operation Olympic. 14 combat divisions, hitting the beaches of Kyushu. Spectre would land 2 weeks early. Create chaos. Kill officers. Disable communications. Give the invasion force every possible advantage. 15 men against 2 million. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima. August 9, 1945. Nagasaki. August 15, 1945. Japan surrendered. The war was over. Spectre never deployed. The invasion never happened. Romano heard the news in a training camp on Guam. He was preparing equipment for insertion when someone ran in shouting. Within minutes, the entire camp was celebrating. Romano sat alone, rifle across his knees, thinking. He had spent 8 months preparing to die, first in a Belgian oak tree, then on Okinawa ridgelines, finally on Japanese beaches that would never see American blood. 3 times he had been ready. 3 times something intervened. The mortars that should have killed him. The leak investigation that sent him to the Pacific. The atomic bombs that ended the war. Was it luck? Divine intervention? Statistical probability? He didn't know. He would never know. All he knew was this. He was alive. The war was over. And somehow he had to figure out how to stop being a weapon and start being a person again. The final tally of Romano's war was recorded in his service file. European Theater 87 confirmed kills in the Ardennes. 43 snipers trained in static position operations. Doctrine revision attributed to his methods. Pacific Theater. 23 personal confirmed kills. 47 enemy snipers eliminated by mirror protocol teams he trained. 61% reduction in American sniper casualties in his operational area. Medals. Bronze Star for Valor. Presidential Unit Citation with Spectre Unit. European Theater Campaign Medal with 4 battle stars. Also in his file, 1 official reprimand for violating sniper doctrine in December 1944. The reprimand was never removed. The Bronze Star was never explained. The contradiction sat in his permanent record, a perfect summary of how the military viewed men who broke rules for good reasons. By September 1945, Romano was on a transport ship heading home. He stood on deck watching the Pacific Ocean slide past, thinking about what came next. He was 22 years old. He had killed over 100 men. He had changed how armies thought about snipers. He had been prepared to die 3 separate times. And now he was going back to Brooklyn. Back to the waterfront. Back to a world that had no idea what he had done or why it mattered. The other soldiers on the ship talked about jobs, families, futures. Romano listened but couldn't connect. Their war had been about survival. His war had been about mathematics. How many Germans could he kill from one position? How many Japanese snipers could his methods eliminate? How many American lives could his techniques save? Numbers. Always numbers. Bodies in snow. Bodies in jungle. Bodies that would never exist because the war ended before the invasion began. He tried to calculate how many Americans would have died at Kyushu. Gave up. The number was too big, too abstract, too far from a Brooklyn rooftop and a .22 rifle and pigeons falling from the sky. October 1945. Brooklyn. Romano stepped off the train at Atlantic Terminal. His mother was waiting. His father. His sister, now 16, almost a woman. They hugged him. Cried. Asked questions he couldn't answer. What did you do over there, Vincent? Infantry. Regular stuff. Did you have to? I don't want to talk about it, Ma. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She understood, or pretended to. They all pretended. He got a job at LaGuardia Airport, aircraft mechanic, simple work, maintain engines, replace parts, keep planes flying. No one shooting at him, no one trying to kill him, no one dying because of his decisions. He was good at it. The patience that made him a sniper made him excellent at delicate mechanical work. The attention to detail that let him spot targets at 900 yards let him identify worn components before they failed. He never talked about the war. When veterans gathered at bars and told stories, Romano listened but never contributed. When the anniversary of the Bulge came around and newspapers wrote about the battle, he read the articles but never contacted reporters. 87 Germans in 72 hours. One man in one tree. A doctrine rewritten. Nobody knew. Nobody would ever know. And that was exactly how he wanted it. But the war wasn't finished with him. Not yet. Because in 1950, another war started. Korea. And the army remembered what Vincent Romano had done. They came looking for him. They had questions about static position snipers. They wanted his expertise. They needed someone who understood patience and concealment and the mathematics of killing. Romano was 27 years old. Married. One child with another on the way. He had built a life. A normal life. A life without rifles and scopes and frozen trees. They wanted him to give it all up. Go back. Teach again. Kill again. The decision he made would define the rest of his life. In Part 4, we'll see what happened when the army came calling. The choice Romano faced between duty and family. The legacy he left behind, both official and unofficial. And the final chapter of a Brooklyn pigeon hunter who became one of the deadliest snipers in American history. The war was over. But the story was not. December 1944. A Brooklyn dock worker's son climbed into a frozen oak tree with a rifle and an idea that violated every rule the army had written. 72 hours later, 87 German soldiers lay dead. One man, one position, one refusal to move. January 1945. He proved his methods in controlled tests. The Army rewrote their sniper doctrine. March 1945. He was sent to the Pacific where his own techniques were being used against Americans. He developed counter-protocols, trained teams, killed Japanese snipers using their own patience against them. August 1945. The war ended. Vincent Romano went home to Brooklyn, got a job, got married, had children, tried to forget. But the Army never forgets useful weapons, and in 1950 they came looking for him. This is the final chapter, the one that answers the question everyone asks. What happened to the man who changed everything? Because success always comes with a price. And Vincent Romano was about to learn exactly what his cost. June 25, 1950. North Korea invaded South Korea. Within weeks, American forces were deployed. Within months, the situation turned desperate. The terrain in Korea was different from Europe or the Pacific. Mountains, ridgelines, positions that favored defenders. Chinese and North Korean snipers used the landscape with devastating effectiveness. American casualties from sniper fire exceeded anything seen since Okinawa. The Army remembered Vincent Romano. October 1950. Two men in uniform knocked on his door in Brooklyn. Romano was 27 years old, married to Teresa for 2 years. Their son Joseph was 14 months old. Teresa was pregnant with their second child. He knew why they were there before they spoke. Private Romano, the Army needs your expertise. Romano looked at the men, looked back at Teresa holding Joseph, looked at the life he had built. I'm not a private anymore. I was discharged in '45. We can reactivate you. Emergency protocols. Your skills are needed in Korea. My skills killed people. That's the point. Teresa's hand found his arm, squeezed, said nothing, didn't need to. Romano thought about the oak tree, the logging road, the bodies in the snow, thought about Japanese snipers in jungle canopy, thought about the Spectre unit and the invasion that never happened. 3 times he had been ready to die. 3 times something intervened. Was he supposed to go back? Was that his purpose, to keep killing until someone finally killed him? He looked at Joseph. 14 months old, eyes like his mother's, hands reaching for his father. No. The officers exchanged glances. Private Romano, this isn't a request. We can compel. You can try. Romano's voice was quiet, calm. The same voice he used when calculating windage at 900 yards. But I have a family now, a job, a life. The war took 3 years from me. It doesn't get any more. Men are dying in Korea. Your methods could save them. Then teach my methods. I wrote everything down for the training cadre. It's in your files. You don't need me. You need patience and discipline. Those can't be requisitioned. The officers left. Romano never heard from the Army again. But he wondered for the rest of his life if he had made the right choice. How many men died in Korea because he wasn't there? How many could he have saved? The math was unknowable. That made it worse. Teresa gave birth to Maria in March 1951. Anthony followed in 1955. Romano worked at LaGuardia Airport for 37 years. Aircraft mechanic, senior technician, retired in 1982. He never fired a rifle again after 1945, never went hunting, never touched a weapon. Joseph asked him about it once when he was 16. Dad, Grandpa says you were a sniper in the war, a really good one. Romano was silent for a long moment. I was good at killing people, Joe. That's not something to be proud of. But you saved lives too, right? That's what Grandpa says. Maybe. I don't know. The men I killed had families too. Sons who would never see their fathers. Mothers who would get telegrams. He looked at Joseph directly. War isn't about heroes. It's about survival. I survived. A lot of men didn't. That's the whole story. Joseph never asked again. But the legacy Romano left behind was bigger than he knew. Bigger than his family understood. Bigger than anyone realized until decades later. The sniper doctrine Romano helped create in 1945 did not disappear when he went home. It evolved, spread, transformed how armies around the world thought about precision warfare. Korea, 1950 to 1953. American snipers using extended static position protocols achieved a kill ratio of 1.5 enemy soldiers per round fired. Previous wars averaged 1 kill per 23 rounds. The improvement was directly traceable to training methods Romano had developed. Vietnam, 1965 to 1973. Marine Corps sniper Carlos Hathcock, one of the deadliest snipers in American history, later credited old Army doctrine from World War II as the foundation of his patience techniques. Hathcock achieved 93 confirmed kills using methods that Romano would have recognized instantly. The tree method, the mirror protocol, extended engagement patience, All of it traced back to a Brooklyn kid watching pigeons from tenement rooftops. By 1980, every major military in the world had incorporated static position sniper doctrine into their training. The United States, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, Israel, France, Germany. The German military ironically studied Romano's methods more thoroughly than anyone. Their Bundeswehr sniper school at Hammelburg included a module called Defensive Position Operations that was, according to declassified documents, directly adapted from captured American training materials dated 1945. The Germans were learning from the man who had killed 87 of their soldiers in 3 days. Total estimated lives saved by Romano's doctrinal innovations. Impossible to calculate precisely. Military historians have suggested numbers ranging from 5,000 to 50,000 American soldiers across Korea, Vietnam, and subsequent conflicts. 5,000 minimum. 50,000 possible. Because one man sat in a tree and refused to move. But the legacy extends beyond military applications. The principles Romano demonstrated: patience under pressure, adaptation to circumstances, willingness to violate rules when rules don't fit reality. These principles appear in fields far removed from warfare. Emergency medicine adopted static assessment protocols in the 1970s, teaching trauma surgeons to remain calm and methodical during chaotic situations rather than rushing to action. Hostage negotiation techniques developed in the 1980s emphasized extended patience, sometimes lasting days, rather than quick resolution. The FBI's training materials explicitly referenced military sniper psychology. Even business strategy absorbed the lessons. The concept of patient capital investment approaches that wait years for returns rather than seeking quick profits emerged partly from military thinking about long-term positioning. Romano never knew any of this. He never read the academic papers or military analyses. He never saw his methods taught at West Point or Sandhurst or St. Cyr. He just fixed airplane engines and raised his children and tried not to think about the war. But his legacy was everywhere. In every sniper scope. In every patient negotiation. In every strategy that valued waiting over rushing. The Brooklyn pigeon hunter had changed how humans think about patience itself. What does Vincent Romano's story teach us? Not about snipers or warfare, but about innovation itself. First, good ideas can come from anywhere. Romano was a private, the lowest enlisted rank, a dock worker's son with no formal education beyond high school. Yet he saw something that generals and colonels and training experts had missed. The military, like all large institutions, tends to trust credentials over insight, rank over results, experience over experimentation. Romano had none of the qualifications that should have made his opinion matter, but he was right. And the credentialed experts were wrong. This pattern repeats throughout history. The Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics. George Washington Carver was born into slavery. Marie Curie faced constant dismissal because of her gender. Albert Einstein was a patent clerk when he revolutionized physics. Innovation doesn't care about credentials. It cares about observation, insight, and the courage to act. Second, institutions resist change for reasons that feel rational. The Army's sniper doctrine wasn't arbitrary. It was written in blood. Snipers who stayed too long in one position died. The three-shot rule existed because it had been proven repeatedly to save lives. When Romano violated that rule, he wasn't just being insubordinate. He was challenging hard-won wisdom. The officers who wanted to court-martial him weren't villains. They were protecting knowledge that had cost lives to acquire. This is why change is so difficult in any organization. The existing rules work most of the time in most situations. The cost of following bad rules is occasional failure. The cost of abandoning good rules could be catastrophic. Romano succeeded because he understood when the rules didn't apply. Not that rules were wrong in general, but that specific circumstances required specific adaptations. That distinction, knowing when to follow rules and when to break them, is the hardest skill to teach and the most valuable to possess. Third, courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. Romano was terrified in that oak tree. He knew the mortars could kill him. He knew the counter-snipers were hunting him. He stayed anyway. Not because he was brave in some abstract sense, but because he calculated that staying served a purpose worth dying for. Courage without purpose is recklessness. Purpose without courage is fantasy. Romano had both. That combination is rare. Throughout World War II, other soldiers had similar ideas. Other snipers saw opportunities that doctrine didn't address. Most of them never acted. They followed rules because rules were safe. They survived by not taking risks. Romano took the risk. That's why we remember his story and not theirs. And there is one more thing. A detail that almost no one knows. A document that wasn't declassified until 2019, 74 years after the events it describes. In March 1945, Army intelligence conducted a security review of the sniper doctrine leak that sent Romano to the Pacific. Sergeant Major Theodore Haskins was arrested and executed for passing information to Japanese agents. But Haskins wasn't the only leak. The declassified document reveals that a second source had been transmitting information about American sniper methods since late 1944. This source was never identified, never caught, never prosecuted. The document includes a single paragraph that changes everything we thought we knew about Romano's story. Analysis of intercepted Japanese communications indicates enemy forces possessed detailed knowledge of static position, sniper techniques prior to their official inclusion in American doctrine. Timeline analysis suggests information transfer occurred during the period December 20–25, 1944, before formal documentation was completed. December 20–25, 1944. The week immediately after Romano's stand at the logging road. Before the Army had written anything down. Before any training manuals existed. Before anyone except Romano O'Brien and a handful of soldiers in the 99th Division knew what had happened. Someone in that small group talked. Someone shared the story with the wrong person. Someone intentionally or accidentally gave the Japanese the information they needed to adapt. The document does not speculate on who. The investigation was abandoned in 1946 due to lack of evidence. The second leak was never found. Romano went to his grave not knowing that his own success might have been transmitted to the enemy by someone he trusted. That the Japanese snipers he fought in Okinawa might have learned their techniques from his techniques passed through chains of communication that started in a frozen forest in Belgium. The oak tree that saved American lives on the logging road may have cost American lives in the Pacific. War is not clean. Consequences are not simple. Even the clearest victories cast shadows that stretch for decades. Vincent Romano died February 3, 1997, in Brooklyn, New York. He was 74 years old. Heart attack. Quick, painless. Teresa found him in his garage, sitting in a chair gone. He never knew about the declassified documents. Never knew about the second leak. Never knew that military historians would study his 3 days in an oak tree for decades after his death. He knew only this. He had done his duty. He had come home. He had raised a family. He had lived a quiet life. At his funeral, Patrick O'Brien, 86 years old, told Romano's children what their father had done in the war. The oak tree. The logging road. The 87 kills. The doctrine he changed. Joseph asked, "Why didn't he ever tell us?" O'Brien considered the question carefully. Because he wasn't proud of killing. He was proud of surviving, proud of you, proud of the life he built after. The war was something he did not, something he was. That distinction matters. More than the kill counts, or the doctrine revisions, or the legacy. Romano understood something that many veterans struggle to learn. The war does not define you unless you let it. He chose to be a father, a husband, a mechanic, a neighbor. He chose ordinary life over extraordinary reputation, and in that choice, he achieved something greater than any medal could recognize. So what do we take from this story? What does 90 minutes of history teach us about ourselves, From a Brooklyn dock worker's son with a borrowed rifle, and an impossible idea to a doctrine that saved thousands of lives across 4 wars and 75 years. Vincent Romano proved that innovation can come from anyone. That rules exist to be understood, not just followed. That patience, true patience, the kind that waits 3 days in a frozen tree, is the rarest and most powerful weapon humans possess. 87 kills in 72 hours. 1 man, 1 position, 1 refusal to move. And a legacy that shaped how armies fight, how surgeons operate, how negotiators talk, and how we all think about the power of staying still when everything screams at us to run. If you know a story like this, someone whose crazy idea changed everything, share it in the comments. History is full of forgotten innovators. They deserve to be remembered. This is just one of hundreds of impossible ideas that won World War II. Subscribe to discover more stories that nobody taught you in school. And remember this: every time someone tells you that your idea is insane, ridiculous, forbidden, impossible, you are standing exactly where Vincent Romano stood in December 1944. The question is not whether they are right. The question is whether you have the courage to climb the tree anyway. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is exactly what everyone expects. And sometimes the deadliest weapon in any war is the one that simply refuses to move.